Hello everyone, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to this webinar on diversity by Prime Talent. We are delighted to have all of you gather with us for this important discussion today. Thank you so much for that. So let me begin by introducing myself. I'm a trainer at Prime Talent. My name is Akash Bansan and I primarily look at employability and soft skills training at AWS Restart program, for which we are a partner collaboration basically. So, now before I go into talking about the webinar, a brief intro of Prime Talent would be good, I guess, so that you get to know that what Prime Talent does and where we are coming from. All right. So Prime Talent is basically a branch of a bigger group, right? And we have other sister companies like iPrime and MNK, right? So right now we are prevalent in the UK, US, India, and Germany market as of now, and our primary function is basically in the areas of recruitment, training, and digital services. All right. So today agenda why we have gathered over here is something of importance. Yeah. We have organized this webinar to talk about diversity. I'm sure everyone is, aware about the term diversity. And especially we're going to talk about diversity at workplace and how it helps in the growth of organization, people, and overall health of our economy, right? So we live in a world, I'm sure again we all agree, we would agree with this, that we live in a world where we believe in inclusiveness, right? We believe in equal opportunities, and we also make sure that we all get equal opportunities and nothing is biased in its foundation, right? So we have organized this event today with the same expectation to understand, to gain some insight and clarity from an experienced voice. Okay. So everyone, I would love to introduce Ms. Smita Sengupta. She is a business and people leadership coach who has 2 decades of experience of working in a variety of strategic human resource and business leadership and roles across US, Asia Pacific, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Yeah. So like I said, she is a leadership and people coach, right? So allow me to bring her on board and let's carry this conversation further. Smita ma'am, request you to say a few words to further introduce your work.
So thank you, Akshat. Thank you for the warm welcome.
Most welcome, ma'am.
You just gave it a start, and I hope I live up to your expectation.
Absolutely.
And yes, you're right. I've had quite a bit of experience over the years, and I'm happy that I would be able to share some of my thinking around the topic. So, wherever people are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who has joined this call. And I hope the next 1 hour will be interactive in a way that we are able to think through and talk about whatever is on our mind at the end of
Absolutely,
it.
ma'am. We are hoping the same to have a great conversation with you. So I would like to, kickstart this conversation by just looking into some demographics so far. So, some recent studies say that 3/5 of senior managers and HR decision makers say diversity and inclusion is important to them personally. Yeah, and they believe that half of the employees do agree with them. So, ma'am, would like to hear from you. Could you explain to us what does it mean, by this term diversity and its relation in the sustainability and growth of an organization?
Okay. Yes, you are right. It's a huge topic, and it has been under consideration, spoken about, research is made for many years. It is not a topic that is on the table today. Lot of things have happened. The needle has moved, but if you look into the statistics that the different groups throw up based on their researches, I think there is still a lot of work to do.
Still,
So why, when you say that yes, organizations are ready, yes, they are. Most of them, they are in a way, at least they value what it means. They
mhm,
know it needs to be done. They have examples in front of them where companies, or those who have gone ahead and implemented diversity, equity, and inclusivity, have gained a lot of strides, while those who haven't done as much. And it's a fact. There is nothing right or wrong about
mhm.
it. So while people understand it needs to be done, but the biggest mystery is why it doesn't get done.
Why
What
does it get?
stops? what stops people from getting it done? I think that is what we need to unearth. Like I said, people have the intent. Is it, lack of understanding, awareness, education, training, some help in guiding these firms in terms of coaching and how to go about it? Could be one of. It would be very
Makes
difficult for
sense.
me to believe that people would not be invested.
Yes, ma'am. I'm very glad that you brought this point about, especially about, we have a long way to go, because again, if I go back to the demographics and everything, they say that almost half of Britain's workforce think that their employer can do a lot more, but it's not really happening. So like you said, it's really important for them to implement it. And I think before that, it's really important for organization to accept the lack of diversity. Do you really think that is this more important, as a kickstarting step, or let's say going on that journey? Do you feel that it's really important first to accept the lack of diversity by the organizations?
Um, I'll just take a step back and I would say that if this lack of diversity is the right term for people to really engage in. So at times, I don't think, like I said, people think that there's a lack of it and I know I'm not doing it for reasons that it is about the awareness. And I will keep repeating this point over and over again. And I will share some examples how this awareness education brought in change in an organization culture. So people don't start saying there's a lack of it, or I mean, I'm sure the owners, the organizations, they know they are not able to do enough or they are not doing enough. I think the answer to it is why, what stops them from doing. And like I said, is there any help that needs to be extended, or do people understand really what would be the effects of getting diversity in?
True. I mean, so according to you, it's not just that accepting it, but they also have to identify as to what is stopping them from getting there, right? Yeah.
Exactly. If I'm not doing something, why am I not doing something? Everybody tells me from childhood, we all hear, I'm just taking an example, milk
Mm.
is good for health. But
Yeah.
many people don't drink it. But
Right.
does their health hurt them? Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe it could have been better. But I don't know why people don't drink milk. There must be a reason for it. So it's similarly, why you don't do it is a choice that you are making, whoever you are.
Right, right, right. So, I think, like you said, reasons are really important for people to get better clarity, right? This is what we are trying to come at. That definitely makes sense, ma'am. And, talking about diversity, again, like it is known that almost one quarter, said that their employees could improve workplace culture by recruiting more people from Black, Asian, and minority ethnic backgrounds. So, what do you feel about this? What do you feel? How does an organizational culture relate to diversity? I mean, how should they really relate to the term diversity, is what we're trying to understand. Is it about accommodating people from certain ethnic groups, or it could be something else? What do you feel in that respect?
I think diversity, inclusivity does mean that you are able to make people come together, belong together, feel comfortable, and bring the skills that they bring to the table rather than who they are, where they come from. That's the basis of, diversity, inclusiveness in an organization. I'll share a few examples, and I
Yes, ma'am.
wouldn't get into, whether a minority group or a black, because most of my, as I have worked across the world, but my major work has been in India. So in India for a long time, we have been speaking about gender, not as much race. Of late,
Mhm.
we are talking about LGBTQ, PWG, neurodiversity. These are all new
Mhm.
topics that have come in. New topics is about
Right, right.
5-6 years back. But before that, in India, if you look at India, it has always been more towards gender. Like every other country started, I think, race, gender were the edifice of starting of diversity. And then when things mature, you go to the next level and then you go to the next level. So I'll give some examples and you might want to relate it to the question
Yes.
that you asked. Um, So simple example, in one time of my career, we were about 15 years back. We were speaking about diversity, but everything was not, cast in stone. And we also didn't know how to take this forward. We were looking at, how do we make this happen? So every year, every organization has this year-end performance management process, right? So we looked at our performance management data, and what struck us was most of the high performers were all men. Promotees were all men. Yes, at that point in time, we didn't have a huge representation of our women folk in the workplace.
True.
Still, there should have been a balance somewhere based on the women that we had, but it didn't show up. It was very, very minuscule. So we went back and we really thought about it. Then we went and spoke to the managers. Then we spoke to the groups that had larger women in the team. And then what we found was very surprising. There was no intention about not giving women the space. It's just that, managers were thinking of their projects being completed successfully. So, women came in and the thinking was, okay, she will leave because if she gets married, she will leave. Somebody who was married and maybe
prejudices.
Yeah, I'll come to that. Yes, unknown, unthought of, not intentional. Then, somebody who's married would leave the workforce because they will get into their family stage. But the same applies to men folks too, but nobody really looked at that. So our conversations with those groups and with those managers were that why is it, and then it actually struck a chord in their minds that true, what they were doing was they were doing something that they have stereotyped themselves and doing things that they have heard, they have known, but the same thing applies to the other gender also.
Absolutely.
So it took a lot of time to a long story short, there were a lot of awareness, education, bringing people to conversations. And then fast forward now,
yes,
culture is built. There is nothing like that. People understand, managers understand, new people come in, they get into that training courses. So when new people come in, they also get primed to the understanding of the organization because the culture exists.
Right.
So that's how. So it can apply to any group of underrepresented group wherever they are. It's again about finding out what's not working, why it is not working, what is the solution, what needs to be done, and how do you keep doing that consistently so that it becomes the culture of that group.
It becomes a sort of culture. I'm very glad, ma'am, you also, sort of diversified the umbrella of the term diversity. You mentioned about LGBTQ. You said, it's about, again, women. We also have a demographics about that. That 12% women are members of the executive teams even in UK, which means again that something that you were pointing at, that not many women are selected for executive teams, executive roles. So do you think, ma'am, is it because like people have unconscious bias, they influence decision, they create less diverse workforce? I think this is what you're hinting at, right?
There is bias. I wouldn't say that there isn't. Bias exists. It exists in all of us. How much aware we are, we want to become better at it, but in some form or the other, maybe whatever I'm speaking to, somebody would pick up a bias in that too. So we do it unintentionally, unknowingly.
Yes.
It's not that there'll be very, very few people in my experience. I've seen people who do it intentionally, but those numbers are very few and far between. So they don't fall into the consideration of what we are discussing. So, sorry, where was I?
No, we were just talking about, how unconscious bias also creates an obstruction.
Yeah, it creates. So, women, now I really don't want to speak only about women. I would speak about underrepresented groups or affinity groups. I think the question is that it's not that they don't come up. There are, all of us know that when we do all these campus hirings at the start of an organization, start of a career at the lower levels, the women population is much more slowly, it dwindles, and then it becomes, so a lot of things about, yes, opportunities, coaching, then the intent of the person also wanting to go ahead,
Right.
people are more assertive. They know that this is what they have to do. Women generally think about a lot of things beyond work. I myself, I have turned down promotions because at that point of time, I was a young mother and I didn't think
Mhm.
that it was important for me to do that at that point. No, it was absolutely fine with me. I mean, I have no regrets. I don't think I took a wrong decision. But then somebody would see, if somebody starts viewing that as a gender issue, that wouldn't be right.
That would be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to understand where people are coming from. What is, I mean, how can you help? If there was something in the system at that point in time, like we have now, that would have supported me with my life event, I would have not. So
Mhm.
there has to be the willingness, the space, coaching, the support for everything to work together to make people succeed. Be it women, be it a person from another underrepresented.
Definitely, ma'am. By your experience that you've shared, it definitely seems. I would love to have your opinion even on this. That, what do you feel that achieving diverse workforce is definitely much more complicated than it seems, right? Because there's so many factors. It could be the factors of the individual, like you said. At that time, you felt differently about something, and maybe you might feel differently about it later. So, and someone might view it as, as someone might come up with prejudices looking at that decision. So do you also feel that it's not just about one particular group, but it's much more complicated, to achieve diversity? Is it complicated in your view to achieve diversity, or it can be simplified?
Honestly, it is not complicated if you
Okay.
put your finger into it. If you really
Right, right.
decide that I'm going to do it, once it is complicated, it is not easy because,
Okay.
if diversity, equity, inclusiveness, it's all is an acquired skill. You just
Mm-hmm.
don't, start, I'm going to do this, and you don't start on that journey.
Right, right, right.
Needs a lot of preparation, it needs a lot of priming, it needs a lot of awareness, it needs a lot of support from networks, champions. You need to take support of groups that support diversity. So a lot of play comes into getting you to where you want to be. There are a lot of organizations out there, who consultants who help you in that journey. So it is doable, it is not complicated,
Mm-hmm.
it is not easy, but if you really want to
Mm-hmm.
do it, you will.
Doable. Yeah, we can achieve it if there's a will to do it, right? So again, really, you have come to a very good point, ma'am, that if someone has the will, they can actually achieve it. So I think, coming back to that, example of milk, that if you give reasons to people, they would follow that. So again, coming back to this conversation, if I say, if you could just help us with some advantages of, uh, creating a diverse environment, I think that would really encourage people to probably look at it with a new light. So what do you think are the advantages, in a nutshell, of having a diverse environment?
Okay. I'll give you some examples here. Maybe in the interest of time, I do not know how many I should be able, but I'll try as much as
Yes,
I
ma'am.
can. So again, it is a fact that,
Mm-hmm.
women don't speak up in meetings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So initially, again, if I look back a decade back, I've myself been part of groups where, you know, maybe we didn't speak up as much as soon as we got into the meeting. We took a little bit of time to open up, to share our thinking. But by the time women really got to that stage, the meeting was over. People made decisions and the meeting was closed. Then even when women spoke, there were enough number of people to overspeak and then actually stop that person from
Mm-hmm.
actually exercising what the person wanted to say.
Right.
So I've seen this, and then again, the culture or the interventions that we had is that the organization understood, our leadership understood that here is the support that we need to provide for these people to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So in meetings, I mean, we were in meetings and then very senior leaders, somebody would speak over a lady. And then after this person finishes, he would actually call out the name and say, you were stating a point. Would you mind going back and stating what you want to say? It was such a nice gesture that, this person also felt good about, somebody
Right.
was
Acknowledgement. Yeah.
and somebody acknowledged it. Somebody wanted him to speak. So slowly, when you start doing that, and we used to have champions in meetings whose work was to observe that everybody was getting the opportunity to speak if they wanted to speak. I mean, not that just because you're in a meeting, you have to speak, but we had champions. Then over a period of time, again, fast forward now, I think if you get into meetings, everybody is respectful of everyone.
Right. The culture has changed in that way.
Culture has
Yes.
changed. People understand now. People are much more aware that even now I see people will say, okay, Smita, did you have a point? Would you want to bring something in? Even if I didn't want to, but somebody is checking with me. So at least I have an opportunity to say, oh no, I have nothing to add. So that change, that understanding, that enablement in a group is something that you acquire when you start doing it.
So what I understand by this is that diversity and making people aware of diversity is a good way to make sure that there is no unused potential in the company. Do you agree with that? Because like you said, if someone is suppressed, definitely the potential will not be used. That person might be capable of doing a lot of things. So can we say that our first advantage would be creating a more considerate environment and making sure that the potential is used to the optimum level of each and every employee. So is this?
Yeah? Absolutely. Another example I'll just share, maybe this would answer your question a little more. If not, tell me, please. So 6 years back, we had the knowledge of just one LGBTQ person in the organization. 6 years.
Okay.
6 years now, we have 10% of the population, which is almost 800 to 1,000. So it's like, how did this change happen? And what happened? People needed to understand what this group is all about.
Right.
What are some of the things that exist within this group? What is non-binary gender? What are some of the divisions within it? What is allyship? What is coming out? How do you appreciate that? That there is no coming out and saying who I am. It's like anybody is like a human being, and as we grew, and in 6 years, if you see that many number of people actually came out and said and self-identified, but the kind of structure you built, the kind of talent you built, the potential that you have built, and people knowing that this is where I am safe and I belong and I'm valued, you attract more people, you attract more talent, they bring in a lot more perspective, maybe more more innovations. I mean, you just become more successful because what you are bringing is the skill, not the person. Like I said,
going beyond the social barriers in a way, you would say.
It's not about the person, it is the experience, the skill that the person is bringing to the organization to share or to
add value.
What they are expected to. And in doing that, they feel comfortable, they feel connected, they feel happy, they enjoy doing what they do. So if you can create an environment which enables people to do what they do best, your answer to diversity
absolutely
gets done. I don't know whether I answered your question.
No, you actually answered what I was trying to understand, because it's really important for people to know what are the advantages, and having an inclusive environment, able to see people beyond their social identity is really important, like you said. So we can say that we are in better times when it comes to accommodating diversity. We are definitely living in times where we can achieve this very well. So ma'am, coming to this point, we have so far understood what diversity is, why it becomes difficult, also what are the advantages. So if you could also give us some tips on recruiting a diverse workforce, because I think an approach would also be good for the audience to understand that what kind of approach they can have in order to have an environment which is much more diverse in nature. So what would be your take on that?
So while coming to recruitment, I think that's one of the areas that you need to really be mindful about, because at this current stage, I think talent is hot anywhere in the market.
Right.
And I'm sure you are aware that these days candidates have become very aware and sharp about where they are joining, the culture of the organization. There are many people, both men and women, wouldn't want to join organizations where there isn't a diverse environment, where they wouldn't feel connected. So when you come to recruitment, it's like, those who actually have started taking this as a stake to their positive building of organizations are actually turning out to be winners and becoming talent magnets. So like the example that I gave you, organizations like this will attract more similar kind of people. Why would someone go to an organization where they are not valued or where they are
Right.
not celebrated? So they will move to organizations that do that, and these organizations would become talent magnets. And everybody is not, and those who have started doing this, I would say, they are proving themselves to be winners in this space. And some organizations, they are lagging behind, and they have not started, and maybe the realization is not there that not being in this space, they are moving farther and farther away. And even the talent that they have today, will they be there tomorrow? They might just be lost, because talent, everybody is looking for talent, and who wouldn't want to get into a space where they are more valued and they enjoy work and they know how they're expressing themselves. So that's what is going to first happen with recruitment. So it is a challenge, we all know, and it is going to become a greater challenge.
So, what I understand by what you're saying, ma'am, that it begins from having the right perspective or a right foundation, what the company wants to achieve. Maybe it begins from there, because like you said, if companies are not ready to be progressive, they would lag behind. They would not be able to match up with the relevance of the world. Like, interestingly, I saw some time back in India that there was this particular organization which was only hiring people from LGBTQ just to promote, people feeling comfortable at their workplace. Their mission was, their foundation was that they have to make sure that they are able to be relevant in the industry. So do you feel that even for the big MNCs and big companies for that matter, they need to set their foundation right as what they want to achieve? Does it begin from there, according to you?
So you cannot achieve anything by tokenizing talent. Let's get that straight. You just can't do it for the sake of doing it. Right. Because once you start tracking diversity, when you get it into your system, when you are serious about it, there has to be some metrics that track, right? So your metrics should become better. That's quantitative. Qualitatively, you have to have a check on how people are feeling in your organization through surveys, feedbacks, whatsoever. So then your professionals, your employees become the brand ambassadors for your organization, right? So it's just not about hiring talent because I'm doing it just to show that I am diverse.
Just for the sake of it, yeah.
It doesn't work for long. People will, if you don't get them into the in the stride, then after some time people realize, I mean, we are all human beings. We understand the difference between what's meaningful, what's authentic, and what is not. So if it is not authentic, after some time, it might be a big
fizzle out,
in the beginning, but after some time, it will just die down. And
might just fizzle out. That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, they'll just leave.
So it begins from the intention. At the same, we have to make sure that even if we have the intention, even if you have the will, the intention should be right behind it. It's just not for the show. Yeah, it should not be a sort of lip service that, okay, we are
checklist that I have so many, my demographic,
right.
Metrics looks like that. I have this many, but what are we doing with that?
What are you doing with that? Yes. And why have you recruited someone for that matter? Yeah.
Exactly.
That makes sense. That definitely makes sense, ma'am. So, ma'am, we are living in an era, or let's say we're living in times where technology has become really prevalent in our lives. So do you feel that, technology can also help us to attract, much more diverse crowd, or it can help to diversify a company's, structure? Do you feel that technology can help there?
I would never say technology wouldn't help in today's world. Of course it will. I think these days, if you see, many organizations have a lot of these resume, these ATS systems that qualify resumes for you. But if it keeps doing the way we have been doing earlier, will it work? Maybe not, because they go by keywords. How can I use technology to make it understand better what I'm looking for? So, for example, if I'm thinking of thinking out of the box, suppose, and that I feed it as a keyword, and then there are thousands of resumes come in, and if it is not there, all thousands get rejected. So, in that, can I find out alternate words? And it could be anything that is up to the organization to create. I'm just taking this as an example, and feed that into our technology to see, if it is not thinking out of the box, is it ideas? Is it traveling? Is it wisdom? How do you look at different things and bring that together so that you are not discarding a whole pile of applicants just because you're using technology? So that's how you have to make technology smarter, that it works because manually it will not be possible for all of us to glean through all of those resumes. But how do I take help of technology? Technology should be able to at least be able to be near fit to as I would have looked into it.
Yeah, giving much more clarity, not confusing.
Yeah, and then also what I see is that where technology can help and is helping, that there are a lot of pre-assessment tests that happen these days with organizations who have been into the diversity space. It's an assessment that really gets people to get done so that you get consistent people who are measured on their skills and experience, and gets to you a group of people that you really don't have to think about. You don't have to bring your personal thinking into it.
Right.
Like most often than not, we say, okay, this person doesn't fit the organization, or this person might not fit. But why do we say that? We say it because we're used to it. Can technology intervene and say, these are the people, forget about what you think, but these are out of that 1,000, we got 10 people, and these 10 matches what you are looking for. So can you just intervene? Can technology help pick up diverse candidates?
I think, ma'am, LinkedIn, would you say LinkedIn is something which has played a very important role in especially understanding the diverse culture? Because these days I see on LinkedIn, people not only share what they're doing, but they also sort of reflect on, what they believe in or the causes they, support. So do you feel that LinkedIn
I'm
can
not
be a
here to
great
promote
tool?
LinkedIn, so I don't know what LinkedIn does, but
Okay.
you spoke about technology.
But let's say any professional
any technology can do that.
platform
Any
for that.
organization can use it in their advantage.
Right. So we can say that somehow technology is bringing people together or giving them a chance to really show what they're capable of. Yeah, not just let's not talk about LinkedIn, but
huge opportunity which each one of us have to utilize it to our advantage, customize it based on what I want. It's not one size fits all. Technology is there, but what do you want to do with it? Is a decision that you have to make.
You have to make. That's very true. Absolutely, ma'am. So, it's really good to understand, where diversity begins from. I mean, like we were even talking about, maybe 20 years back, diversity was just about the genders, but today, it has diversified in so many ways. I also see people, we have come across people choosing their pronouns, and I've seen certain companies. Interestingly, I remember there was an interview with a company where my friend, attempted that, and he said that they asked me first that what kind of pronouns, what are your pronouns, which also shows, a diverse culture of people catching up with what's really happening these days, right? So you do you feel that this is an excellent time for for companies to diversify in a manner that we can actually unite the workforce that we have, or we can break the barriers within a company?
Couple of things that I've already spoken about. I think war for talent. If you are not taking DEI into consideration, you would be missing a whole talent pool, to attract them, to retain them, whatsoever. So, it's not going to be easy. What was the question that you just mentioned? Can you
I
repeat?
was just, I was just talking in general that, do you think it's a great time to, start thinking?
It
Yeah.
is, and that's what I'm saying. Talent is number one. Second, I spoke about, organizations who are winners. They become the brand ambassadors. They attract more people. Those who are not there, they are going to lose their talent. And it is a definitive yes, they will lose their talent. If not today, 2 years down the line, because the world is changing and it is changing very fast. If people really don't get into it, it is going to get a little difficult. And then, different businesses run on different parallels. And if somebody says, no, I'm fine with this, I'm not going to do it, I have enough business, maybe that is good for them. Because you never know, as much as we do, what actually happens. It is definitely a must have. People have seen definitive returns on organizations that have taken diversity inclusion in its stride, but still there are people, organizations that don't do.
Right.
The other day I was looking into an organization's website, and I was surprised. I was really surprised that even in today's day, some websites keep leadership names and pictures, the leadership team. And there were at least 15, 16 people, not a single woman. I'm thinking that in today's world, the first thing that anybody would look at is, do I belong there?
Right.
Is there, even if I get hired, even if I get into that leader, will I belong there? Is it a place for me? So those are the things that keep cropping up in people's mind. One simple example, another one is we all look at job descriptions, right? So we are a job seeker, or we are a creator, or we are an organization. I would say, and I study them very diligently because it is my interest. And earlier, all job descriptions used to read he should be, he should be, he must be, he must be,
Right.
right? But today, if you look at JDs, it doesn't say he. I mean, you will
Yes.
be
It's
very
a
shocked to find that, and there are some that come up. Honestly, I don't even read them. When I see 2, 3 lines, it keeps saying he. It's like, well, it's not for me. Um,
right.
like me, it's not because I'm a woman, because they don't have their thinking into how they're even going to use their language.
Right.
So, very simple thing. We all see, but then it has happened over a period of time. So people have understood, they know what is in the market, they know they have
Right.
to attract. So there are changes that are happening, that are going on, but
Yeah.
is everybody in the same place at the same level?
Not yet.
No.
Maybe not yet. So we can summarize it in a way that there is an awareness. People are aware about the importance. Some are probably struggling whether to accept it or whether to go with it or not to go with it. But there is a long way to go still. Yeah. Can we say that there's still a long way to go, even though there is good amount of awareness right now?
I would not say long way, but way to go.
Okay.
Because I cannot say for everybody, because my associations, I think we have reached a place where I feel comfortable, confident about where we are. But I don't have a view to every organization. So my only recommendation would be, if I am able to do so, is, those who have not, it's worth starting to look at it. It's worth starting to look.
I think it all begins from the inclusion, like you said that, I mean, I personally feel, ma'am, and you can correct me on this, that this diversity has to begin probably from, from a very young age, because it's not just about, the workplace. It's probably, the way society works, right? And we sort of carry that, with us to our offices, to our, to our social interactions and everywhere. So do you feel if we really want to have a very strong foundation when it comes to diversity, it should begin from the textbooks, let's say? Yeah, it should be included from there itself.
You're right, it should be, but unfortunately, we don't get this taught in entire education system of ours, at least not in our country, and I don't think it gets done elsewhere.
Elsewhere.
And it is more of an acquired skill, like I said before, and for all of us, we have learned on the go. And we have observed, we have been in trainings, we have been in awareness sessions, and we have learned. And as we have learned, we start passing that on to the next generation. So today, organizations are much more equipped to, talk about this, make people aware, which during our times, it was not as much. So it took time for people to really get there. But also, if you see today's generations, millennials, they actually want what you just mentioned.
Right.
They want their societal experience to come into their work experience. They want that to mesh. They don't want that, when I'm out of work, I'm different, and when I go to work, I'm different. It's not that. My lived and living experience as it is in my society, I should experience that at work. And that is why it becomes so important as we attract more millennials and the younger generation into the work. It will be more of an ask from them as to how we organize ourselves.
I think that's why there's so much to talk about. Who am I? Yeah, a lot of people believe in living their, identity, no matter, like you said, whether they are at home or somewhere else out there or at the workplace. They want to have the uniformity of who they are. So I believe, like and you've very well quoted it, that millennials, they say they are woke, in a sense. And I think this would carry on. I mean, this is my hope. And hearing your views on the same, it does seem that there is definitely some sort of hope when it comes to that. Yeah. All right, this is great, ma'am. Anything, ma'am, on a wrapping note, if there's anything that you would like to, add for our audience to, sort of summarize everything, what, in just a few words, if you would. Anything that you would still like to add?
I would just say that, I would reiterate that I don't think people don't want to be part of it. I think it is a lack of the why, how, that keeps people back. So I would say, get interested, learn more about it, see what can be incorporated, see where you want to start. If you have not started, no big deal. You can always start anytime, anywhere, as long as you have the intent to go ahead. And in my experience, I have seen that, certain people who have actually held back, when they actually understood and they really bought into the idea, they actually went much faster and much ahead with it. Yeah. So I would just say, it's
never too late.
It's never too late, and it's no more personal. If we are in business, somewhere our minds need to change. Our minds need to become accepting. We need to be more accepting of what's happening in the world. And also, all this diversity, inclusion, it really does not only have a business impact. It has a huge societal
Global impact.
imperative that each one of us can bring. So when you see this journey that people went through in this diversity and inclusive culture, they not only became better professionals, but and this is something they shared with us, they became better personal beings at home in their
Yes.
families. So there is a change that comes in people when you embrace larger aspects of life. So you should selfishly do it for yourself.
I can't agree more, ma'am. Definitely, and every word that you said makes sense. And thank you so much for bringing so much of light to this topic of diversity and giving us an insight how to really create better diverse environment when it comes to especially our workplace. So I would, yes, most welcome, ma'am. Really love to have you. I mean, I would like to now move towards some question and answers from an audience where we can just take up some questions and probably get your perspective on the same. Right. So, all right. So I think I have the first question here. Is diversity more important than ability? What do you feel, ma'am? What's your view on that?
Diversity is all about ability. The two things are not different. We are getting into diversity because we are looking at the skill and the experience of that person, which is the ability part of it. What I'm ignoring is the person, who the person is, where that person comes from, what is the gender, what is the race, what is the ethnicity, or what is the disability they have. I'm ignoring all of that. What I am looking at is only ability. What is the person great at? If the person is great at something, I want that person irrespective of anything. So I
Anything
don't
else?
think diversity is all about ability.
So if we just focus on ability, automatically we'll have a diverse culture. Yeah.
Have diversity.
Okay, that definitely makes sense. Thank you so much, ma'am. The second question that we have is, can implicit bias training be a game changer in promoting inclusiveness?
Yes, but it will take time. It will take time because, as much as we get trained, our mind works in a way that, like I said, unknowingly, we might get into, bias. But yes, over time, practicing it, being trained in it, it definitely reduces what we have. And we become more mindful of how we are bringing bias. Today, if I have to speak about something or I have to think about a situation, I always think first, okay, I have to clear my mind. I don't want to carry my baggage. So look at the situation as it is. It's hard to do, but that's how, if we keep practicing, the bias reduces. Doesn't go away. It takes a lot of practice.
It is sort of a bigger obstruction, we can say, if you're always biased about this. All right, thank you so much, ma'am. The next question I have is, what parameters are most relevant to strategize and promote inclusiveness?
Come again, tell me the question one more time.
What parameters are more relevant to strategize and promote inclusiveness? What parameters you feel are more relevant to achieve this, to promote inclusiveness? So what kind of parameters companies can look at, or people in general?
I think the first thing is not look at the person as such. Like I said, I would just say, if I need X skill, I should look for X skill. Now, how do I get about doing that? Which means I have to make sure that I am doing the right recruitment. I have to make sure my recruiting team is well for, getting this job done for the organization. So have they been primed? Have they had enough education on that? That's one. Second, I am promoting diversity. Is my team diverse enough? Today, if my recruitment team consists of all men, where am I giving an opportunity for a lady to assess someone else, or from another underrepresented group to assess that? So how diverse is my recruitment? So because the more diverse we get, the more diversity we bring in the selection. Similarly in projects. Do I have enough? Am I taking only one kind of people? Am I getting a mix of people who can do different things well? And how do you do that? This will happen when organizations keep speaking to their people, keep tracking their people. If I get into a project, so I want somebody who has strong communication skills, so I get someone, irrespective of where that person comes from. I need somebody who can draw very good graphic design. So I have to choose somebody who does that well, irrespective of whatever background they come from. I think project, hiring, anything that you do. I mean, at one point in time, I can tell you when we were, again, this is many years back, when we were looking at, how to become inclusive. And I remember, senior leadership said that, we will not be part of conversations, presentations,
Mm-hmm.
seminars, if there isn't men and women in equal proportion.
Mm-hmm.
So that became a parameter for us. There wasn't a only lady group, or there wasn't a only
Right.
man group, right? So, and then it starts to build. So these are
Mm.
some of the things you have to be obvious and open to, about how do you bring all of this in today's world. If I was leading an organization, I would say, I wouldn't be in a presentation unless I see a diverse group.
Demanding diversity. It can
Yeah.
begin from there. Yeah, that really makes sense, ma'am. All right, ma'am, I would like to just take up one more question, and this is from the perspective of a job seeker. Yeah. So, how to establish and measure a company's culture that is inclusive enough to make people want to stay?
Want to stay or want to join that
Want to
company?
join, want to stay. I guess the person means, yeah.
I think the first thing in the interview process, if I were a young job seeker, I would, or even now, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeking a job, I would ask about the culture. I would ask, what kind of diversity, demographics they have. And these are good questions to ask. Do they publish a DI report? Because if they do publicly, then it shows a huge accountability of that organization in their DEI culture. Nobody will be able to publish a report publicly unless they're doing those things very honestly and very authentically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So observe, what the recruitment team is like. Is it diverse? The leadership team that they would be interviewing, do they have enough diversity in the team? These are telltale signs of,
Mm-hmm.
whether diversity
Yeah.
exists or not. Go into company websites and see, like I said, what the leadership team comprises of, if it is possible. Look at JDs. How do they work on it?
Right.
Is it using gender neutral language, or is it
Mm.
using language that is more towards a particular group? So these are some of the things that anybody can look at while they are looking to be employed with us.
I think it begins from, even the job seekers asking the right questions, we can say. Yeah. The way
I think
the
these days they need to ask.
yeah,
All of
asking
us
the right
need to ask.
questions. Right, right, right. So I think a bit of research, like you said, being a little observant, asking the right questions,
Correct.
looking at, the language and everything can really help people to choose the right company to begin with. All right.
Absolutely.
Great. That really makes sense, ma'am. Thank you so much for, attending all of our questions and queries and giving us an insight into, what diversity really means. It was lovely to have you here today with us.
It
Thank you
has
so
been
much for
my
being here.
pleasure. I hope it was helpful. Um,
Absolutely.
Happy to speak on this topic for
We
hours.
would have, yeah, we would have taken more questions, ma'am, but just because of time crunch, not able to. So
Yeah.
just, would love to request the audience to send us, if you have any questions, please send us off at, I can share the email ID at info@primetalent.com, or you can visit our website www.primetalent.com. It would be lovely to hear from you, and we would try to answer whatever is, left unsaid. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Lovely
Before I
having.
end, I would just
Yes,
say that your series says rethink and reinvent. I would urge everyone to keep rethinking and reinventing themselves.
That's a great tip, ma'am. Please, everyone, I hope that you have got some tips to, live up to. And please keep the curiosity on. I guess it all begins from the curiosity. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a lovely day. Thank you.